You know how people say, leave work at work? Well, what if the feeling you get from your job, the whole vibe of your workplace, actually follows you out the door and onto the road? What if I told you it could be the difference between a safe drive home and a serious accident? We're going to get right into it. I know, it sounds like a bit of a stretch, doesn't it? Could your office environment really stop a car crash? That is the exact fascinating question we're going to explore today. We'll be looking at some incredible research that found a hidden connection here. And trust me, the answer is probably not what you're expecting.
And look, this is not just some academic thought experiment. This number, nearly 25%, is the slice of all traffic accident victims who were hurt in a work-related crash. That's almost 1 out of every 4. So this makes road safety a huge workplace issue, whether you drive for a living or just back and forth to your job every day. So, how in the world could a workplace possibly affect what you do behind the wheel? Well, the key, the secret ingredient, seems to be this idea called social capital. So, what exactly is it?
Okay, the easiest way to think about it is like this. Social capital is the invisible glue holding a team together. It's the amount of trust you have in your coworkers, that unspoken understanding of how we do things, and just the general strength of your professional relationships. It's a real resource, just like cash or equipment.
And, you can have a lot of it or very little. A place with high social capital is like having a full bank account of goodwill. People have each other's backs, they team up, they feel supported. But in a low social capital environment, it's the total opposite. People feel alone, they're suspicious of each other, it's pretty much every person for themselves.
And this isn't just some abstract theory, it was seriously put to the test. This whole idea was the focus of a doctoral dissertation by Dr. Shlomo Kogan, who was supervised by Professor Tova Rosenbloom. They really wanted to know if this bank of goodwill could actually translate into safer drivers on the road.
So how'd they do it? Well, the researchers set up a really smart study to measure the precise link between the social vibe at work and how people actually drive. And it all started with who they chose to study.
Yeah, this was no small sample. They got 280 professional drivers to participate. We're talking about people whose entire job is being on the road day in and day out. This gave the researchers a fantastic real-world group to get data from.
And these drivers didn't all work at the same company, which is key. They came from 4 totally different organizations. We'll just call them Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta. Each one had its own unique culture, its own pay scales, its own management. That variety was absolutely crucial for this experiment.
The researchers then measured 3 main things. First, they measured that social capital we've been talking about. Things like trust and having a shared mission. Second, they looked at each driver's core personality using the standard Big 5 traits. And third, they measured risky driving habits using a well-established self-report survey.
Okay, so all the data is in. What did they find? Well, some of it was pretty much exactly what you'd guess, especially when it came to personality.
No big shock here. Personality definitely plays a part. The data showed that drivers who were naturally more conscientious or more open tended to report safer driving. And on the other side of the coin, those who scored high on sensation-seeking, which is linked to being impulsive, also reported being riskier drivers. Yeah, that makes total sense.
But it went beyond just personality. The data also showed a really strong connection on the individual level. It turns out, drivers who felt they had a high level of social capital at work, more trust, more support, they also reported driving more safely. This was a huge checkmark for the main hypothesis. So far, so good.
But, and this is a big but, here is where the whole story takes a really fascinating, unexpected twist. The biggest, most important finding wasn't the one that confirmed what everybody already thought. It was the finding that kind of turned everything on its head. This brings us to the million-dollar question. If individual drivers who feel supported are safer, then it seems obvious that the companies with the best overall cultures, the ones with the highest objective social capital, should have the safest drivers. Right? It just makes sense.
Nope, wrong. And this is the part that is just mind-blowing. The research found, and I'm quoting here, that an individual's perception of social capital was linked to safe driving, but an organization's objective, actual level of social capital was not. Let that sink in. How a driver felt about their company mattered more than the company's actual culture.
So what on earth does that mean? It means the measurable, objective reality of a company's culture just wasn't the deciding factor. It all came down to what the individual driver believed in their own mind. And that leads us to the single most important takeaway from this entire study.
Here it is, the core lesson. The real power wasn't in the company's policies or its overall climate. The power was inside the driver's head. If a driver perceived their workplace as a supportive, trusting place, they drove more safely. And that was true no matter if their company was objectively better or worse than any other.
And we're not talking about a tiny little effect here. When you put a driver's personality together with their personal perception of social capital, it explains a massive 42% of the difference in risky driving. That just goes to show how incredibly powerful these internal, subjective feelings are.
And so that leaves us with this final, really provocative question. For companies, for managers, for all of us, what's the smarter way to make our roads safer? Is it spending a fortune to build a perfect, award-winning culture? Or is it focusing on each individual person to make sure every single one of them feels like they're trusted, valued, and a real part of the team? This research strongly suggests the answer lies in perception.